Can you guys hear me? Dan's just having a little bit of issues signing on. It shows that there's 4 on. Who's on, guys? Hi. Come on. Hello. Dan's having some technical difficulties getting on, so I appreciate your guys' patience. Perfect. Thank you, Lisa. All right, guys. I don't really know what's going on with Dan, so I'm just going to get on and talk. I'm going to wing it. Sink or swim, right? What's up? All right. Because I know I don't want to be sitting here all night, right? How are you? Okay, let me just bring this music down a little bit. I'm gonna... Hey, none of that. Lou? Lou? Archie? Do you hear him? He doesn't even listen. It's like he has a mind of his own. So, he's over there causing a ruckus. All right. That's enough. He can't help himself. All right, folks. So I'm not sure what's going on with Dan. So I'm just gonna... I'm gonna center myself here for a minute. I love it how the enemy, I call, who is the enemy? The enemy is anyone that doesn't want humanity to go forward. That's the enemy. And they're just trying it tonight, evidently. Bring it. What are you going to do? You just have to, thank you, Lisa. Coming in good? You can hear me good? Yes, we are definitely great.
David Johnson.
Stepping into our greatness, right? And that's what it's all about. Stepping into the greatness. So Well, I'll just go ahead and just get this out because, I really don't like to talk about myself, but I'm Jay. I am your host. I am a former Air Force medic. I have a little bit of nursing background, but most of my experience is in clinical research. I was studying nursing at Bowling Green State University, and then my mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And this was in 99, and I had just got out of the Air Force in 97. So I had like one more year to go, and they would have made me wait. This is how funny, our educational systems are. I would have had to wait an entire year to get back into the rotation for nursing school. So I said, I'm not doing that. That to me just doesn't, I probably isn't a big, trudge through. Looking back, I probably maybe should have took some time off, allowed myself to really to heal from my mother's loss, because it's a big loss. And so hindsight being 2020, a little bit more wisdom, I guess, with regard to loss. I probably should have took some time off, but I was young, and I was bound and determined that I was going to, finish my degree, get out here and do what I got to do. So I wasn't going to wait, and I changed my major, and I started to major in neuroscience and psychology. It was kind of this cognate bachelor's degree. Took classes that I don't use. So, and like I said, I was in clinical research, so that's a little bit different from psychology. And although my education was in psychology, I never really vibed with the way things were, how they label folks, and you're this and you're that, and all of that. And coming through this journey that I've been on, which this is why I started the podcast in the first place, was because it's this journey, right? From being egocentric to being, one with the spirit. We're spiritual beings having a human experience, and it's time for us to step out of this programming, this matrix that has been created by technology, and we're living literal illusion, and we're seeking external validation, and we're separating ourselves even more from our creator. And so this is what this podcast is all about. It's all about encouraging people to step into their greatness and just really do the work. I understand it's hard, and it's a challenging thing to really kind of look at yourself in the mirror and understand that, we're not perfect, and we weren't created to be perfect. We're here to experience life and like take it by the horns and just live. And so this matrix that we live in, it's all about fear, 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 and it keeps you from really stepping in and doing what your purpose is. And so I've kind of given it a shot a couple of times with podcasts, but it just really wasn't vibing with me. And I think a lot of it was, number one, I had more growth that I needed to do. I needed to go through that in order to really just kind of practice what I preach, and not that I preach, but I share. I share my wisdom that I've kind of gained along the way, because I've had the opportunity to really dive into this process over the last 7 years since I lost my father in 2018. And, I know that my purpose is to really help people with that shift, because it's hard. And some people don't have the the network, right? They don't have the people that they would need during this time. I mean, I've been very lucky in this journey that I've had people that are going through the same thing, right? And although their experience is different, we can get together and kind of like just talk it out. And sometimes that's what you need, is somebody who's kind of a little bit along the path, a little bit ahead of you. I always say that, you know, like even in death, like you're just a little bit ahead of me, right? Like, so I've lost my mother, I've lost my father. So they're just a little bit ahead of me in the journey because, you know, the soul is infinite. And so if you've lost anyone out there, that's the best way I describe this whole journey, is that they're just a little bit ahead of you. And it's kind of like, I don't talk to my people here on earth every day, right? We kind of check in, and months may go by because everyone's going through their thing. Everyone is being challenged in their own way, and everyone is right where they need to be in this process. And, you know, we're going on these stages where people before me and before the people that I keep in touch with that are on this journey, people have come before them. You know, I had teachers. I have been studying transpersonal psychology with the Newman Institute in Mount Shasta. And so, you know, my teachers, they're younger than I, but yet they are a little bit ahead of the path, right? And so, and that's where I'm like, age is nothing but a number. We can learn so much from each other. It doesn't matter how old we are. And, you know, God is really, you know, our Creator is asking us to really step in and to really share that journey, because it's important for people to really understand, like, why am I doing all of this? You know, why am I doing this shadow work? And why am I looking at myself in the mirror, metaphorically speaking? Why am I doing all of this? Well, you're doing this so that you can involve your soul, because, you know, we're here to remember. And then it's like, once you start remembering, you're like, oh my gosh, I've got this all figured out. That I'm not supposed to know it all. Like, I mean, there's lots of things, there's lots of areas of neuroscience that I could particularly go down that are like fascinating. But this is kind of that niche right now. I've really done the work. So I have that personal experience, and then also having the education kind of helps. Although I think the education is a little bit of an indoctrination, so you got to be very discerning about certain things. And I kind of alluded to that earlier about how we label people. Oh, they're this. You know, like for instance, when I say this, let's say they have a personality disorder, or, you know, they've been labeled with PTSD, or they've been labeled as schizophrenic, or and when I say label, I'm talking about the mainstream Rockefeller medicine. I'm just going to say it like it is. Just going to put it out there that, you know, some of these rabbit holes, like this is kind of alluded to in the movie The Matrix. These rabbit holes that you go down, you know, you have this, the whole purpose of doing that, the whole purpose of diving into and reading and listening and watching podcasts and all of this is to wake the brain up, because the brain has been in this state of programming where we've had, you know, the television, what do you call it? We used to call them TV sets back in the day. I'm like aging myself, but this programming device that's in our homes, and if we continually watch it, it like, you know, it can program, right? And so obviously we're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing the effects of that sustained psychological warfare. And one thing that with that, and I know I'm kind of going all over the place. I'm trying to do the best I can because I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of thrown off a little bit. So yeah, be patient with me. But I'm not sure what happened with Dan. He was saying he was having issues with his getting on with his Chromebook. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. I said, just get on your cell. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Like sometimes maybe this is a lesson for me right now in real time. You guys are seeing me process this. Like, I'm like nervous, like, oh, this isn't going the way that I want it to go. Oh my gosh. But that's life. That is life. And we have to be able to pivot. What are we going to do? Okay, well, let's wing it. So I'm just going to talk for a little bit and just share with you where I am in this journey. So back, let's rewind this programming that we've kind of sustained since the creation of this. So go back as far as my parents. If my father was alive, he would be 80. So my parents were born in the 40s. My father was born in 44. My mother was born in 48. And so there was programming back then. It wasn't as bad as it is now, but there was still programming back then. So essentially, were our parents asleep? Maybe not so much in the beginning, but I think as time progressed and as technology progressed in their lives, yes. So this ego that I talk about is this identity construct, right? And it's something that is kind of cultivated through our experiences in life and the conditioning that we have. So if we're talking about conditioning, we're talking about the conditioning that's happening with the programming and with this device that we have in our home. And they use this device and have used this device throughout history to throw out propaganda and all of this. And so from a political standpoint, that's what we're experiencing, right? But we're also experiencing it, we have been experiencing it with big pharma. It's a little something I know I've been in clinical research for 22 years, so I've been in and around pharma, big pharma, and, this direct to consumer, right? Like, let's tell you all the bells and the whistles, and then we'll give you a little disclaimer, and we'll put it out there in plain sight that, oh, if you take this drug, it might cause XYZ. Just, but no worries. And so the direct-to-consumer marketing has really, I think, affected how people have this this mindset of like anything can be fixed, like as if drugs are going to fix things, and it just doesn't. It masks. And, they've created this billion-dollar business, and now we're seeing that. So it's pretty wild. And I'm optimistic, though, that some things are going to change. So, yeah, so this ego thing, let's get back to that. So we attach our roles and our identity to this ego, right? And if you get the whole purpose of the ego is to keep us in survival, right? We're born to Earth, and we have to interact with other people, and other people may not be on our same wavelength. They might not be on our vibe. They might not be what you would say aligned with humanity. They may be more so in the ego, which is, the ego is this manifestation of the sins, right? Anger, judgment, jealousy, pride, hate. We're seeing a lot of that. nowadays. And so it's this manifestation, this ego is just it has no ability to really be in control of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that come up. And the thing is, we all have egos, and some of us are more ego dominant, I would say, versus being in alignment with what the spirit would like, which is, am I coming from a place of good intention? Am I being loving, patient, kind, understanding? These sort of things. But the number one thing is compassion. And when you step into this experience of being mindful and being on this journey, it's an amazing journey. It's tough. It's tough, but it's necessary, because you're either going to make the choice to do it now in this lifetime or come back and do it in another lifetime. So I'm trying to do as much as I can at a time so that I don't have to. This place is challenging. So Earth is not our home. It's just not. And the fact is that we're going to die. So if we know this ahead of time, that we're going to die and that it's not our home, why are we allowing this external pressures of life dictate to us, how we should live our life? I have a heating pad because it's chilly. I live in the Pacific Northwest and it's a little chilly today. It's raining and I'm like, ugh. My sister-in-law was over here. Shout out to my sister-in-law, Jen. She helped me get all the lights up and things like this. Like, it's a mess back there. There's a lot going on that you guys don't see, but just getting it set up, and she's like, it is cold. I'm like, right. It's like bone chilling cold today. There's obviously a lot of humidity because I'm feeling it in my joints too. So I have this heating pad. So anyway, I digress. But, so yeah, we're just experiencing this crazy time where we're allowed to make a choice about, okay, are we going to do the work now or are we going to do the work another time? And are we going to procrastinate? And take it from me, I spent quite a bit of time in my life after my mother passed away in 99. And, I finished my bachelor's degree, got out, worked a little bit. I went back, worked on my master's degree, and it's all neuroscience, clinical psychology, all of that. And I just got to this point. I'm like, I don't believe in this. Like, I don't want to label anybody. I feel like there's something missing. And so I came across this several times, and it's like, like you'll be living your life and then it's like something will happen and it'll make you question, like, okay, well, maybe that's the direction I need to go in. And so it was this transpersonal psychology. It's really bringing in those fragmented, because we're fragmented. We're not mind, body, and soul. We're not these separate things that this illusion, this matrix wants us to be separate. Like, we're separate from God, our body's separate from our mind. Let's treat it as such. That's not the case. It's like we have to start looking at like the being, this person that's in a meat suit, as this spiritual being that it is, and that there's so much more. We're so much more complex than we care to admit. There's just a lot. And so this is something that everyone could have the opportunity to do, and to become more mindful. And really, the whole concept of heaven on earth is being able to be peaceful and not rattled by the things, the circumstances that come into life. It's about mindset. It's about, facing things head on. And let me tell you, if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's the truth. And I I've abused alcohol as a result of not dealing with my mom head on and stifling it and deflecting that energy onto my brothers and my father and worrying about them and not worrying about myself, and started to abuse alcohol. And I think had I not changed course it was 19, I think that I definitely would not be here today. The amount of alcohol I was drinking. And I'm not even going to admit it because it's just beyond whoa. And also just didn't damage my liver. Hallelujah. That right there is like, that's God. That's God. Like, how is that even possible? The amount of alcohol that I was drinking. But, I have people that loved me enough to have that difficult conversation with me and put me right back on the path. And so I've been on this path ever since. Last 7 years after my father passed away, it was like, then I had to put my dog down, my first dachshund. Most people that know me, they know I have a dog. His name is Archie Lou. I was yelling at him here earlier. That's my bestie. He's been here with me on this journey over the last 5 years. And he's my best friend. We've been across this country in the car. We've driven across this country like 3 times back and forth. So yeah, he's my bestie. And so when I had to put my first dachshund down, Dieter, I literally was brokenhearted. So, and I've been on this journey ever since. It's like once you have enough suffering, it's like that's when you surrender. And so I was on my journey, but I think it just literally the point of where I surrendered to the Spirit of God. And I was like, I'm done. Just take me now. I want out the game. Like, let's go. Like, I've had it. I can't believe this stuff is going on. At that time, I'm a veteran. I mentioned that. I'm a veteran. And at that time, I was like, what is going on? Like, I'm waking up, I'm sober, and I'm like, what is going on? And so my awakening happened. It started in January of 21, and it just took off. And I had time because I had a shoulder replacement. I was off of work for 6 months. So I had time to really dive into it and really focus on doing that soul work and asking these questions like, okay, I'm triggered by this person. And I know it's not that person. I know that's an illusion. And I'm talking to myself, right? I know that's not an illusion because this is the way that the work goes, right? You have to question, like, why am I being triggered by this person? Okay, I need to be in control of my emotions, because if I'm not in control of my emotions right now, I could say something that I really don't want to say, right? So having this state of mindfulness where I'm like, of the moment, what am I saying? What am I doing? How am I reacting to this? Because it's not the person. They may just say something you don't agree with. It hits your cognitive dissonance, a belief that you may have had. And you're like, that doesn't make sense to me, because it's like questioning the programming. It's questioning what your beliefs are. And so then all of a sudden the ego kicks in. No, that's, you don't know what you're talking about. You're a conspiracy theorist, or you're this, or you're that, or you're dumb, or whatever it may be. No, I know. But really, do we? We don't. Because all of it is just, we don't even know what the heck's going on from one day to the next, really. I mean, we have to just kind of really sit back. What do I have control over? And that control is like of yourself. You have control over yourself. You have control of your thoughts. Your thoughts, your feelings and emotions. And that the mindfulness part of it is the missing piece, right? That if we can be in the present, not too much in the past, not too much forward, because I think sometimes we have to go back to the past in order to process. Not too much in the future because we're worrying about how things are going to go and all that when we really don't have control. And it takes us out of the present, the experience that we're having right now in this real time, right here in this podcast where I'm like been thrown a curveball. And how do I handle it? Do I flip out? Like, come on, man. I'll tell you, probably about 4 years ago, maybe I'll say 3. You know what? I'll say 2. I would be flipping out right now. Like literally like, so that's progress, baby. What's up? You know? So yeah, this ego is a challenging thing. This work is a challenging thing because it wants to keep you in that illusion. It doesn't want you to be self-aware, because when you become self-aware, then you're more connected to your inner self, your true authentic nature, not influenced by this external out here. And so I'm just trying to interject some of these little wisdoms that I will be talking about and going on different podcasts. I'm going to go like deep level where, I'm going to show slides and things like this, because I think it's important for us to understand, like what are we talking about here? Because some people don't have a level of understanding, and that's okay. You're not supposed to know everything, right? That's why there's people out here that specialize in certain areas. That's why there's an opportunity to really step into your gift, because you may grasp a concept that somebody else may not. They may not do as well explaining it as you, or, maybe their strength is talking about, the whole thing. Like, for instance, the herbs, like I know about that, but I'm not like, I can't niche into that. That's not something that I can niche into because I just haven't done the work. I haven't really dived into that. So this, it just seemed like and I love it. I love neuroscience. I find it's very fascinating. Joe Dispenza, he's amazing. There's so many different souls out here that are just like really branching off to where things need to happen. And, I know that I'm not for everybody, and that's fine, because some people already know all this. They've already done it. And so that's fine. So eventually I'll move forward as I grow. I'll move forward in it. But right now, this is the area that I really want to talk about, is really kind of making sense of what this ego is. How do we transcend it? Because there is that possibility. The more work that you do, the more you can be, unaffected. I used to be like so sensitive and let people get under my skin. And now it's like, I just don't care. I don't. Because I know I'm not for everybody. I don't need everybody to like me. Those that do, that's cool. Like, let's vibe. And those that don't, that's cool too. I wish you, the best. I release you to your greatest good. We're not here to be the end all be all to everybody. We're here to really just build a community of people that really are like-minded. They get what we're talking about. And sure, you're going to have people that are going to challenge you. That I think that's a great thing. It kind of keeps you on your toes. But the challenging comes from being inquisitive, and not from the ego where, I know everything, and I don't know everything. I don't know everything of this life. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I have much to learn, and it's a cool thing. So I'm just on this journey, folks. I'm on this journey with you. So the whole thing with ego, it transacts with the consciousness, right? Where we became more self-aware of ourselves, the more that we become self-aware, so we got this ego over here, and the more work we do to ask it questions like, okay, where is that coming from? You're feeling angry, like I get triggered by someone, they piss me off. Why? That should be your first question. Why am I getting pissed off? Next question is, where is it coming from? Like, does it have an attachment to something in my childhood? Does it have an attachment to something that was happening with, my mom, my mother's death? Like, what exactly is happening there? So you're just constantly asking yourself questions, and you're constantly like just talking in your head and thinking before you speak. A lot of people don't think before they speak and say things that they regret. And, that can only happen so much, right? Where people are only going to give so much grace. There just comes a time that you've got to sit back and you've got to say, okay, I have to do the work. And I'm guilty of that too. That's why I'm saying it. Like, I'm going to be very honest, and that's the purpose of this podcast, is for me to be honest about my experience, that I don't have it all figured out, and I don't have to have it all figured out. And all I can do is share the gifts that I have, the wisdom that I have. I don't just do podcasts. I want to, there's lots of things I want to do. I want to get into doing retreats. I'm almost done writing my first book, which is so cool. I have a mindfulness journal that I published. So, there's goals that I have, there's ideas and things that I want to work on outside of that. I'm going to be working with a friend of mine. Shout out to my friend Nora out there. She's going to be helping me with some ideas on merch, hats. Like, I like trucker hats and t-shirts and things like that. And fabric that's another thing. Like, that's not a conspiracy theory. That's a conspiracy that they've put things in our clothes that are not good for us. We're walking around with, a garbage dump on. Like, this is probably made of polyester, I would imagine. It doesn't feel like, it's kind of sweater. So, that kind of thing. So kind of focusing on that and staying like in this whole kind of holistic, and sharing that wisdom that I've learned over the years about all of that, and that kind of ties into my research. So there's a lot of different niches that I can do, but for right now, this is kind of what I'm focusing on. And so back to the ego and consciousness, and it's basically, consciousness is this pure, like, unadulterated awareness. Like, the moment it comes in, it's like, whoa, that's from the spirit. And the more that we can be aligned with the spirit and really living our true authenticity and being peaceful and kind, even though it's challenging sometimes, I understand. But having the power and the control to walk away from situations or just not engaging, and that's probably like the best thing that you can do for yourself, but even also that person, because you're not engaging into the nonsense. And I think maybe when you're not engaging in the nonsense, it's kind of like, well, what? Like, they're not engaging me. Like, and then you get pissed off about that. I've been there. So I think sometimes we just have to, because we're just not going to get through. And it's like they're on a different level, and we're just not going to get through. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get, not that maybe somebody else can't, but you're just not in that specific time. So, and this consciousness and you being an evolved soul and moving along in the process, this consciousness, it exists beyond the programming. You realize what that programming is. Like, you realize, okay, this is something that I have to question. This is something that, the spirit is saying, you might want to question that. So cultivating your discernment. I talked about rabbit holes earlier. I always bring it back. That when we're being programmed, in order to deprogram is to go down and really understand what this is all about and why it's happening and why they've created a matrix in the first place. And then once you realize that, you're like, you can see through everything. And it's not seeing with your eyes, it's seeing with your spirit, right? That just doesn't look right, or that doesn't feel right, or that doesn't make sense. And you engage these amazing gifts that our Creator gave us: logic, critical thinking, to be able to step back and say, okay, wait a minute, what exactly am I looking at here? What am I seeing? What am I hearing? And kind of dissecting it. And the whole thing about not even having to react, like not even having to comment, just go and start to step into this observer role where you're just on social media. There's lots of times I don't even comment. I just go through it. I'm just like, wow. And I just observe. And in doing that, am able to kind of assess, where is the consciousness? Like, consciousness meaning, where is this pure, unadulterated awareness about what's going on in the world around me, right? And this really truly does exist. It does. And I know people that are going through this and the same thing I am, and they're like, what's going on? And it's, we talk all the time because it's like, am I seeing this? And yeah, some of y'all will know what I'm talking about, but that being more conscious about yourself, your awareness, all of these things, you can question, and then you're moving towards center with the spirit, and you're aligning with this greater truth of existence. And once you realize that, you're like, whoa, like there is a God. And we are here to remember who we are. We're not here for ourselves. This is our temporary home. We're here to figure out, remember what it is, our purpose is, and to do that. And usually your purpose is something that you love. So therefore, it's not really a job. That's really what the goal is. And it's been this programming around, you got to work that 9-to-5 job. You got to pay taxes, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. And it's like, you dig down, this rabbit hole, that rabbit hole, you take it back to the spirit. You come to the realization that, whoa, I've been deceived here. What am I going to do about it? And that's the question we have to ask ourselves. What am I going to do with this information? What am I going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Are you just going to sit back and just continue to just do the same thing over and over and over again and bitch about it and complain about it? Or are you really just going to step in? And this journey from this egocentric crossing over into more self-awareness and the world around you, and really engaging these attributes that Jesus Christ had of being patient and loving and kind and understanding and not judgmental and not casting these unwarranted judgments on people, but being able to step back and say, okay, I'm going to share my wisdom with you, but some people are going to, they have to go through that process of where they have to fall on their face, unfortunately, and really kind of get themselves out of it. That's what this life is all about. So it's like once you start to align more, you accept the wisdom, and you're going on, and you're controlled by your higher self and the spirit of God, and not so much by your ego. And so everything just shifts. Everything shifts. Your reality shifts. Your mindset shifts. And so that's why I named it Harness the Shift, because it's something that has to be harnessed, because we don't completely kill the ego. The ego doesn't completely die. I say kill the ego because there's I'm giving them a shout out because they do great work. It's just funny. It's called Kill the Ego. It's on Instagram, and I'm just like, wow, that is, yeah. I mean, that's basically what it is. We're on this battlefield. The battlefield is the mind, and you're the spiritual warrior, and you have the spirit to help you battle the mind, because the enemy, those that are not aligning with what's good for humanity, are always going to tap into that, most of the time using fear tactics. If we would just step back and stop doing this and allow ourselves to really be open and like, whoa, let me look at this from a bird's eye view, which we have the ability to do when we're mindful. And I'm telling you, I go back to this every time. Like, what's the key to this awakening, transitioning from the egocentric over into the consciousness? And when you're in the consciousness, then you're vibing with the other people that are in this mindset too. And you start to attract that, and things start to change in your life. And the way that you look at things that, may be considered bad, like, a loss of a job or a death of a loved one, you start to look at it differently. And it's not doom and gloom. And that's what life's all about, is really kind of exiting that egocentric, I'm going to be fearful, because the ego loves to be in fear, loves it. So stepping out of that and understanding that there's unconscious programming, and that really what it's about is aligning with your one true, authentic, natural, conscious self. And this is that deprogram, that harnessing the shift, because you're constantly asking every time. Like even myself, I'll be like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Or, oh, I see what's going on here. Like sometimes I've had some challenges where I've been a little self-deprecating or whatever it may be, and I'll catch myself. So that's the whole part of it is. And then asking yourself, like, catch it, but then also say, well, why am I feeling this way? Or why am I being so hard on myself in this particular section? Why am I trying to control? Why can't I just step in and just be like, okay, chill out? So I've had, I'm having a little challenging time myself. I had a contract that ended at the end of January. That was interesting, to say the least. A lot of things that were going on in the background where they weren't being on the up and up and conspiring, and just was not cool. So just the last month, I'm like, man, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And it's like, chill out. Like, just chill. Take a breather and chill. Like, we get in this survival mode. I got to keep going. Where sometimes things happen for a reason. And it could be that I'm in this season right now that I'm in kind of a lull going into acceleration, because I can feel it. Like I can tell something it's going to catch. Hold on a second. I got an announcement here. So there's this deprogramming and questioning and mindfulness. And so some of these mindfulness things that you can look at, like when I was studying, currently I'm kind of taking a little hiatus from studying with the Newman Institute. I have done breath work through them, and it's been absolutely life-changing, because it allows you to really concentrate. And when you're concentrating on the breathing, taking breaths, and I know that Gary Brucka, he is the ultimate human. He's part of this movement of stepping into taking care of ourselves, stepping away of really the whole big pharma thing, because we know that it's not helping. I'm not saying that there aren't drugs out there that help people. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it's gotten out of control. It's out of balance. It's way out of balance. And so also body scanning, right? Scanning, like, why am I hurting here? Or why am I feeling this way? Or like, for instance, like when I start to feel the ego, like I'm getting upset, it'll start in the pit of my stomach. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting fired up. Okay, I need to bring it down, right? Bring it down. So this is where we can be in control of our thoughts. We don't have to believe the thoughts that come in. Those thoughts are come in for everybody. You're not nuts. It happens to everybody because it's this condition, that's this society, this matrix that they've created, this illusion that we live in. So we have to question that, like, no, I am not that. And really just observing it. Journaling, questioning your thoughts. I've talked about that a lot. And then also getting out into nature. I live in Pacific Northwest. I live outside of Portland. I live south. I live probably about 45 minutes from Mount Hood. So I'm kind of in the hills. And so I like to get out in the nature, and I don't use my earbuds. I like to go out and I like to hear it, because I think it's so important for you to hear the birds chirping and hear the air blowing through the trees. It's like, there's so many amazing things that God put us here on this earth, but there's so many amazing things that are available to us that we can kind of dial it down, dial our nervous system down, so that we can just really start to heal ourselves. And when I say heal, most of this is most of it's mental. Like I said, we're on this battlefield of the mind. And so a lot of people, when they're going through this transition, they sleep. You're catching up on sleep. Now think about it. You've been in survival mode, not in this lifetime, but also in other lifetimes. So you're tired. Your soul is tired. So you may not physically be tired, but your body wants to sleep because your soul wants to rest. And so, yeah, definitely rest. Definitely make sure you're hydrating. If you fast, okay, cool. If you don't feel like eating, there was a time that I just did not feel like eating anything. It just did not seem appealing to me. I've caught up with that for the last 3 months. I will say. Not that I've gained a lot of weight, but I feel like put on some weight. And maybe, who knows, maybe that could be that I live in a colder environment. When I lived in Florida, it didn't really, it didn't really happen. But it's kind of strange because I'm not eating a lot. I don't know why this is happening. So I think it's just naturally happening because it's cold. It's cold, so most people get a little fluffy before winter. Bears included. So come on now. And another thing, meditation. Meditation is such a good thing. I go through spurts where I'm like doing it a lot, and like actually like sitting down and doing it. Lately, I've kind of been on this kick of just when I wake up in the morning, just kind of before I get out of bed, and being able to recall before I open my eyes, being able to recall like from my dreams, if there was anything that I could like recall from my dreams. I've been on that kick, but you do what works for you. Healing hurts. Let's talk about healing frequencies. Healing frequencies are amazing. These were discovered by Nikola Tesla, and you have different hurts that can help you heal. So I'll talk about that, probably do a podcast on that, probably get somebody who's really like well versed on it so that they can really adequately explain it, because like I said, I don't know it all. I can't possibly know it all. So that's why I want to bring people onto the podcast that can really talk about that from their niche. And then, obviously we've talked about programming a lot. So I would like to get someone on the podcast to talk about this MK Ultra and psychological programming and brainwashing and all of these things. Because I think that's important. Because we've all been programmed, all of us. So some more degree than others, but, and so with that, like how you can kind of step out of that is take a detox. So I talked about getting out into nature. I'm also talking about detox from social media, just shut it down. Like, I took a break for 6 months. I didn't get on. I didn't watch any podcasts. I didn't watch anything. All I was doing, I shouldn't say I didn't watch anything. I was watching podcasts that were more about what I was going through from a spiritual sense. I wasn't dialing into social media. I wasn't dialing into the chaos that's going on with the politics. By the way, that's something to separate us. The matrix is going to do anything necessary to separate politics, race, gender, all of it. It's all meant to separate us from each other so that we are not conscious of what's going on about us or what's going on with other people, right? Not in a way of the nosy lady that knows everything. I can't remember what they're called, but, Lennon and, let me just check this really fast here. Reese, woohoo. Oh, thank you, Reese. Thank you. I am too. Okay. So you're from Idaho. I love Idaho. I lived in Boise for about 7 months and I really loved it. I loved it. It was beautiful. But my family lives here, so I wanted to be closer to them. I know Boise is not too far away. It's like 6.5 hours away, but it's not a straight shot. It's a lot of the reason why it's 6 hours because there's a lot of mountains, and so you can't speed, through the mountains. You kind of have to be very careful, and so yeah. So that's kind of why I moved here to Oregon. Yes, linen and wool have the highest vibration. Yes, I sleep on linen sheets. It's so bonkers. And if you've noticed, like over the years, how fabrics have gotten more like polyester, and they have to put a blend in with it and these things, and they do it on purpose, because we're putting that on our skin. The skin is the largest organ; it's absorbing, so it makes sense. If we weren't aligned with humanity, how can we get them? We're going to do that. We're going to just put some polyester into their clothes and they'll be sick, joint issues, inflammation. Most of it's inflammation. So, yeah, that would be really cool if we're going into this new way of thinking, right? This new earth. That would be really cool to see folks creating, making clothes again out of linen or out of wool, maybe doing a linen wool blend or something like this, and really like creating clothes from that standpoint. Because some of the clothing out there is just like, some of it's really garbage, literally recycled garbage that people are wearing. Like, how can that be? I don't know how that could be good for you, but yeah, thank you so much for these comments, Reese. So yeah, it's about developing our critical thinking. I'm getting back on board because I got my notes here, but breaking free from this psychological programming. And really the first step is to admit that we have been. So I think anybody on this journey, they realize, I've been programmed. So and let me go ahead and dissect this, and really to just cultivate critical thinking, like what's really going on here. And I've done a couple podcasts in the past. I woke up politically. I shared that a little bit. I kind of alluded to that I woke up politically. I was like, what the heck is going on? And it was like instantly, like I'm a veteran, and I'm like, whoa, this is that. The Constitution, and it was not my path. That was not my path. It wasn't my path to go and run for office or any of that. I mean, I'm not saying that wouldn't be possible maybe in the future, but there's going to have to be a lot of things that change, and I think we're on the right path. I think things just need to be worked out. And one thing I can say, if the powers on that side, on the light side, are listening, the people want accountability. That I will say. The people want accountability for the things that have happened, that are coming out. The people want accountability. And this is what I see when I tell you that I go and I observe, right? I sit back and I'll like go and just observe and not really even comment on things. Every now and again I do. Sometimes I kind of step on myself when I do that. So I try not to, because then I'm engaging in it, right? Like I'm engaging in trying to make sense of it, but at the same time, I'm still engaging with it. So I sit back to just kind of gauge, like, where are we as far as like the level of consciousness? Like, where are we as a whole? And I talk to people. I had the most amazing conversation with a group of ladies. It was on January 20th, and we went over for a little get together on January 20th, and it was a fun time. It was cool. The conversation was cool. It flowed. People were like, whoa, and people were sharing things, and people genuinely wanted to know. And I was like, wow, this is cool. Like, this is a table that I want to sit at. I'm giving a shout out to my friend Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. I love being on this journey with you too. And I have learned a lot from, and this is the thing, guys, we all have this wisdom. We all have an experience that we have gone through in this, and God is calling us to share that. And I get it. I get it. I would have, look, 7 years ago, you would have said, oh, you'll be doing podcasts. No. Are you kidding me? Like, it's nerve-wracking. It can be nerve-wracking. It's not so much anymore. But back in the day, that was one thing I really had to kind of transcend, was worrying about what people think. And at the end of the day, who gives a shit? Like, we're all on this journey, and we're not expected to know everything. We're just not. And it's so important for us to share our experiences, because I learn things from Lisa all the time. I'm just like, what? Oh my God. So yeah, we can learn from each other. We can learn strategies from each other. We can learn how do I get around this? How do I get around that? So it's so important. Like, I think when you're going through this process, we kind of want to like huddle within ourselves because we're going through this, we want to cocoon, but we have to know when it's time to get out and go and do things. And so I met Lisa back in August. I was thinking about becoming a resident. This was before I even knew anything about all of that. And we'll get into that. I plan on having some people on the podcast to talk about, our birth certificates and how they've weaponized grammar and our capitalized name versus our lowercase name, and all of these legal things that they've done to keep us, dumbed down and have control over us. And so I'll be sharing that, but that's going to be later on. I kind of want to get all of this out. I know I kind of babbled a lot, but I really want to break it down. So now I'm going to probably do a couple podcasts on ego, and then have some folks on that will talk about, okay, these are the things that you want to ask yourself. I'd love to have my teacher on, Evasa Love. I'm going to give a shout out to them on this podcast, because they've really been instrumental in my growth, going through their teachings with the Numa Institute, and anybody can go through them, because there's facilitators all over the country. You can take this class, and it's cool, because you have a sense of, I'm not going through this by myself. I'm not going nuts, right? But I always say, you have to lose your mind to find your soul. And that's really what it is. Like, the mind is the battlefield. We have to lose our mind in order to find our soul, to center. And when we bring it back to center, we bring it back to love, and we hold the space for people, even the people that challenge us. And we all have those folks that just challenge us all the time. And it's like, if we can just bring it back every time to center and to love, and just understand that everybody's on their journey, can't fix what's been done overnight. Let me say it again. We cannot fix all of this. It didn't happen overnight. It's certainly not going to be undone overnight. And so you see people that are very impatient they got to complain. It doesn't matter. Like, it's like, whoa, like some folks are just really unhappy. And so they project that on, and that is projected by this manifestation of impatience or anger or hatred or whatever it may be, because something internal is going on. And so it's all about encouraging those folks. And look, if you're on this journey, which I believe, Reese, you are, I know, Lisa, you are, like, I encourage you to do that. Like, find something where you can, share that, whether that's writing, you know, create. You know, we've been in this mode of I'm consuming, and God is calling us to create, to really just create, because when we create, like especially books, people that like to read books, there's so much opportunity out there because everybody has a different viewpoint. It's a pretty cool thing. So I encourage you to get out and share your stories. It is very important to do that in this time. And so I love this. Reclaim your sovereignty over your thoughts. I've said this. Being in control of your thoughts, feelings, and emotion. Like reclaim those thoughts. I am not the thoughts. I have a fragmented consciousness. My ego is, you know, it's still like I'm still wrestling with it. I'm still like harnessing it, harnessed around, and I'm pulling on it, right? No, I'm not those things. I'm not those things. I am perfect the way that the Creator made me. And I'm in this human condition that I have to give myself a little bit of grace. And we have to be the example of what we want to see, the change that we want to see in the world. We have to be the example of that. So we have to not be impatient, because every interaction, I'm telling you, the last 4 years, back and forth, all the traveling I've done, the air traveling that I've done, traveling in my car, the people that I've met along the way, it has not been by chance. I will tell you that. It has not been by chance. It's been divinely or in divine order. It's like perhaps that person needed to hear that in order for them to get on the right path. You know, if we're not afraid to say what needs to be said, and we can say it with conviction and wisdom, like imagine, you know, how I believe like 5 years from now, like let's fast forward 5 years from now, I really think we're going to be in a totally different situation as humanity starts to wake up, because there's no stopping. This is happening, folks. Like, so either you're going to stay over there and complain about your life, or you're going to step in and you're going to heal yourself. You're going to go to war with that ego. And if you don't, you'll do it in another life. Like you're going to get recycled. We call it recycle in the military. So if you didn't make it past a point, you were recycled. And I don't think that's by chance, because I think that's kind of how it is, which isn't a bad thing. We're all going to go through that, right? If you believe in past lives. Not everybody has the belief, right? But mine's not really, it's not a belief, it's a perspective based on walking through this. So it's not a belief of mine. I know. That's something I know. I know for a fact is because I've done that work that needed to be done. And then you have dreams and you're like, what? And you analyze those dreams. And the more that you wake up and the more your brain is just like, you've created new neural pathways and all of these things. And I'm going to talk about all that. But you've done this deep inner work. And also there's and I think it's called EMD, EDMR or something like this. I have a friend that's doing it and is working really well for her. And this would be for people that have post-traumatic stress, right? And also the somatic release of that from our body, because we're energetic beings. We hold on to that trauma, right, within our body. And so when we can release it, that helps too. And man, surround yourself with a good camp. Like, this is that point where It's if people aren't going to come along on the journey, you can't take them with you. And that was a really hard thing for me to grasp. And quite honestly, I think I've kind of honed in on that in the last 6 months, where I realized, wow, you know what? The path is narrow, and it's narrow for a reason. Because not everybody's gonna do this work. Not everybody's gonna be willing to do the soul work, because maybe they have an indoctrination into religion, which I've always questioned that. And I'm not knocking anybody, but it is like anything that man has its hands on. Let's be honest. Like, the church has been infiltrated. It's obvious, and so. Having to question that, questioning that, and questioning, God, what is this God thing? What is this? What is this creator? What are these scriptures like? And really kind of going back to the spirit in this time to really discern from the scriptures. And, there's a lot. I mean, I could go on for days, guys. We could talk about some of these truths that are coming out, and it's all intertwined. And I'm not saying everything out there is the truth. I'm not saying that. Like, the truth can change, right? Everyone has a level of what the truth is or what they believe, but that can always change. And the more that you align with the spirit, it's more of a perspective versus a belief, because you're really dissecting it. You're taking the time to really dissect it. Like, for instance, the whole thing with the children. If you understand, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. That rabbit hole took me about 2 years to get down. I could not wrap my head around it. I just couldn't. And that whole concept of being loving and patient and kind and understanding is very challenged with that subject. And, I'm glad we're going down this, because I want to share something with you that I believe, in my observation on social media, I've come across where, and it's mostly men that have come for me. It's like a gang stalking type of situation, where someone will make this guy will make a comment, and then the other one will do it on another post, and then the other one will do it on another post. Like, every time it's been 4 to 5, and this happens to be several times on social media, mostly on Facebook. It's like when I share something that they don't want to come out, whether that's the good guys or the bad guys, I don't know. The dark, the light, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, but something triggers this where they all convene, right? And then the next thing you know, they're on the same post, and they're not even friends with each other. And then they're interacting, and they're trying to either make you feel like you're crazy or you're being too emotional, and doing this basically gaslighting. And I've gotten to the point where it starts to happen, and I block every single one of them because I don't have time for it. And so the only thing that I could think of is that maybe they're doing that because they don't want too many people to know what's going on. They're either trying to bombard it, or they're not ready for it to be disclosed. We're in disclosure. And I've said this, since my political time, and I've observed it. I've experienced things in breath work that I believe that there is something going on under the surface, something covert, has been for a long time. And so, for the good. And so I think everything is paced the way that it should be. But it's spiritual war. God has removed the veil And we're seeing everything for what it is. And some folks are not seeing it because the level of consciousness about their own level of consciousness is low. And then they don't really know what's going on in the world, that a lot of what's going on here is happening over in different countries. Like, and that there truly is this seek to control and hold on to the control of humanity. Let's be honest, they've been controlling us. So there's this seek to continue this, and there's a seek to liberate us. So that's kind of how I look at it. But so I don't really know what that's all about, but I know something shady's going on, because it's like my what do you call it? Like your spidey senses are going off, like, okay, I know something's up here. And it happens to be when I use that P word that has to do with children, and I'm not saying it on here because these guys are really good at doing the whole censorship thing. So yeah, it's never a dull moment in this matrix, right? So I'm gonna wind this down. I definitely don't know what's going on with Dan, and I don't think he's coming on. So it is what it is. So this whole mindfulness and ego and emotional control, that's the goal, right? The goal is to really harness that ego, have control over your emotions. It's really not even really, you're not even, I don't want to say you're in control. It's more of a mastery, right? Because you're going to, there's days I'm like, ah! And Lisa's been around for that, like, ah. Yes, those men have too much estrogen. Yes, right? And I'm just like, it's like they know how to trigger you, because they're like making excuses for what was going on. And I don't know, Reese, I don't know if you follow me on Facebook, but I've last week, I kind of got on that subject. I kind of got on a tangent. And I just was like, why are people, it's a yes or no question. Is a 13-year-old capable of, with a 64-year-old? Yes or no? Like, is this okay? Is this okay in a civilized society? Is this something that our creator would want? Now, I mean, age ain't nothing but a number, but we're talking about people that don't even have, we're talking about 13-year-olds. They're not even psychologically, they're not even capable, right? So that's what I'm getting from. I'm thinking from a psychological standpoint, because that's my area of expertise, really, or knowledge, I should say. I don't want to say expertise. But yeah, I'm just like, what? That kind of triggered me. And I'm like, okay, I really had to talk myself down. Like, okay, be nice. Like, watch what you say. Think about what you're saying. Think about what you're writing. This is Mary Beth. Oh, I love you. That's my girlfriend from Idaho. I love you. She's being all covert. Covert. What did I say earlier about the covert mission? I'm going to have you on, Mary Beth. We're going to sit and do that. We're going to talk about that, because Mary Beth is on her journey, and she's been dialed in from jump. And so I kind of want to get you on and have that conversation, because look, we got to have these conversations, and that's what it's all about. It's all about to make sense. I think it's John Gray wrote some great books about why men are so weak. I think a lot of it too is what they're putting in our food, right? And that, oh my God, if, I've said this, if men did this kind of work, this mindfulness work, to master their thoughts, feelings, and emotions and how they react to things, it's such a huge opportunity for growth. Because, I meet men and I'm like, there's a lot of good men. I just think that they just really got to go to war. They got to go to war with the ego, and they really have to like heal themselves in that department, and go back to that little boy and say, you know what? I know you didn't have that person wasn't there for you, but I'm here for you as a grown. I am my little self at say 7. I can say to that 7-year-old, I know you didn't have whatever, but like now you have it now, right? We have to be able to really be vulnerable enough to do that. And that's involved in this work where we talk about, what would you say to your younger self? I know that, gosh, if I had the wisdom that I have now, oh my God, when I was young, oh gosh, I tell ya. But I also look back at some of the things and I'm like, man, I had an intuition coming into this game, I really did. And I just think often we ignore it, like we kind of put it on mute or we stifle it, and it happens. So, but, this is my YouTube channel account from years ago. John Gray wrote some great books. John Gray, I'm going to have to look into that. So when I post this, I'm going to go back and put in, what I talked about and all that narrated. Probably be doing it tomorrow. And then probably cutting this up too, because we're going on 2 hours now. I know there was only the first half an hour was kind of like waiting around for Dan. I don't know what is going on with Dan. I don't know if he had a meltdown. So I'm just going to hold some space for Dan and give him a shout out. I'd like to have him on so he can kind of talk about his journey, because it's a really cool journey. He's from New York. And he used to work in the music business, and he got out of that. And so was in Florida, was in St. Petersburg for 2 years, and then just recently moved back. His apartment, like before he moved to Florida, caught on fire. Like he's been through some crap this last 5 years. So he's kind of been on his trajectory, and it's, I think I really truly believe that we're on that upward swing. Like we were in the valley. God, were we in the valley? Were we not? And now it's like, now we're on this upward swing where we're starting to see more people awaken and start questioning things and making these, critical, like connecting the dots. So another person I'm going to have on, and I want to give him a shout out, is my friend, Robert Antonellis. He's an investigative researcher. He's an engineer. He ran for Massachusetts Senate seat against Elizabeth Warren. He gave it a real good go. He's brilliant at connecting the dots. Like, I'm like, you should be working for some intelligence, like on the good side though. And this is another thing. People don't understand that there's two militaries, right? There's the military industrial complex that works with big pharma, works with big pharma, and what am I? All the bad, like the bad military, the CIA, all of the little rogues that are within the agencies like the FBI and ATF and DEA and all of these things that kind of are the bad, right? Like the country's been infiltrated from every aspect. So it's for me, it's not hard to understand that we do have a lot of corruption. And so this military industrial complex, big pharma, bioweapons, all of that is over there. And then we have the good military that are, fighting the forces of evil and subterranean warfare. Let me say that again, subterranean warfare. If you know, you know. So yeah, like I'd love to have like a conspiracy night. We could just put it on the table and be like, yeah, well, what do you think about that? And maybe they have a round table about that. That would be cool. So yeah, I mean, I'm open to anything because it moves the needle, right? It moves humanity that way. And I learn things every day. I'm like, whoa, I didn't even know that. So crazy. But I think it's going to dial up with the rubber band man getting confirmed. I think we're about to see a snapback, if you will. And it's not going to be pretty. Before I jumped on here, well, as I was jumping on here, Mary Beth, so Wendy Williams is coming out with some information. Well, yeah, Wendy Williams clone, who knows? Okay, but nonetheless, some information. So it's already started, and just keep your minds, keep your wits about yourselves with the information coming in, and just stay heart-centered as much as you can, because we don't need anybody doing anything that would harm them or whatever. That things kind of have to happen this way, where it's like drip, 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 drip. And I understand why, because it goes back to that whole programming, MK Ultra, all of this stuff. We have some people that are really fragile from a psychological standpoint. And we have to have, yep, Epstein. I hope they don't shut me down for that. Yep. So just hold a space, when you're spiritually evolving and evolving your soul, it's our duty to really hold space. And just, I've just said, what, I'm done. Like I'm not interacting with people. I'm not arguing with people. Okay, if you want to be right, go ahead. Like I don't have the need to be right. I'm just sharing the wisdom that I've learned in my experience. So I don't have all the answers. I'm open and I'm ready to receive any and all information and take it back and simmer on it. I don't have to make a decision right away about anything. And you know what? It's about building your tribe. And the people that support you are going to support you. And the people that won't, well, maybe they will once they integrate in, new information. Everybody, what's really cool about it is that you can always change your mind. Your truth can always change to something different as you grow. You're like, there's some things that I'm like, I don't think that's true. Or whereas I was a little bit naive and would be like, oh yeah, did you hear about XYZ? And it's, there's misinformation, disinformation out there for a reason. So one podcast I would love to do is getting somebody on here that's really like military intelligence, that can really, dive into it. Like, that's what they do. Like, I talked about the whole niche thing. We all have gifts. Get out here and do it. You know, like, we all have different knowledge. We all have different wisdom that can be shared. And so that's this whole calling to step into our greatness, you know, and the greatness comes from our creator. And we're not for everybody, you know, I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. It is what it is. So, oh, Archie-Lou, you want to come and say hi to the peoples? Come here. Come here, Lulu. You want a treat?
Come here. Come on here. Hold it. Go pick it up. Come here. I will hold it.
So you got a baby talking. Lulu, come here. Come here. The dog always has. The dog always has a ball in his mouth. You're on streaming, buddy. Say hi to everybody. This is Archie-Lou, the piebald dachshund. He has his own Instagram channel.
Are you going to say hi? Oh, he's so beautiful. I can't take it. Good boy.
This is my bestie. This is my little guy who has been with me on this journey. After I lost Dieter, we got somebody, one of the girls that works with my sister-in-law. She was like, "Oh my God, there's some dachshunds that need home," and I'm like, I don't want another dog. I just wasn't ready. It was like 6 months out from Dieter, and I go see this little shit, and I was like, oh, okay. Right, Lulu? But he was too young. I couldn't take him. And then we went on our trip. I was telling you that we went on a trip and did the spirit was like, rebel, rebel, rebel. And so we went on this trip and did the whole Pacific Northwest, or the whole Pacific Coast Highway, excuse me. And we flew into Seattle, drove all the way up, and went down the entire coast. And so I got him when I got home. And then I think it was like June 15th. We got home on the 1st. And then like June 15th, Jenny and Tommy were like, "Oh, by the way, we're moving to Portland." I'm like, "What? Portland?" You know, and that was when I was in my, in my programming, my political programming. And I was like, "What? Are you nuts?" No judgment, Lisa. My friend Lisa. But you know what? A lot of people, I think there's a lot of folks here in Oregon that are not, are of the mindset of, you know, and are aligned with the spirit and are working on it. Very rarely do I interact, but that could be because I'm, you know, I don't know, because energy, I don't know. You know, there's this concept of you, what you put out, you attract. So who knows? But, I don't know. I think people are starting to see things, and maybe people are a little bit confused about what's going on too. So like, what exactly is going on? And it's like, just observe, just sit back and observe, and just be like, some days I'm kind of like, what's the move here? And then I'll like, let me think, what's the move here? And then I'll think about it. And then I'll, you know, I'll pray on it, and eventually I get an answer. But it's interesting. It's interesting times we are living in, right? It's a good time to be alive. I'm just like, wow. Every day I'm like, wow. Every day it's like Christmas. What are we going to find out today? It's like you go out here and you open up your present and you're like, what are we going to find out today? You know? And then who's going to be mad about that we found that out, and that we're doing what we said we were going to do, and that's dig in. But I will say, the people want accountability. I know I do. I want visual, if you get my drift. I want visual accountability. Because some of it's like, you're not for humanity, clearly. And so that's above my pay grade. So that I don't have to worry about that in this lifetime. I know that I'm not. So, but yeah, I think I'm optimistic. Are you guys optimistic about the future? I am. I think as we get out here and share, and I think some things happen to maybe give people confidence, we'll say. I think it would be great. One thing that I'm just kind of, she said, oh yes. Yeah, but cha-ching. Is unrealistic expectations. It's like we just lived that, and now it's this, and now we're seeing things kind of happening, and it's like it's not good enough, it's not fast enough, it's not coming out, and it's like this is this impatience. Like, dude, chill out, and I'm not that I'm picking on the guys, but I see a lot of this from men, and it's like, you guys got to step in, man. We need men to lead. That's the way it should be. That's the way the divine wants it. Like, there's a reason why there is a divine masculine and there is a divine feminine, and there's a reason why there is so many women that are by themselves, because they have to play both roles. Like, I got to have my own back. I'm not saying I'm not open to, but I'm not open to, I mean, that I'm not saying that I'm not open to dating. I am, but like, I'm not going to waste my time dating somebody that hasn't done the work. Like, I can say that wholeheartedly, unequivocally, that I will not. It's not going to happen. I don't have time. I don't have time to like babysit anybody like that. I just don't. And I mean that with, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying, like, I've done it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And you owe it to yourself. Like, you're either going to have to do it now or do it in the next lifetime. So my thing, it just makes sense. Just do it now. Like, do it now. Take care of yourself now. Step into, like, really, I think 25 is like my year of really stepping into, like, just physical. I've worked on myself spiritually. I've worked on myself in that aspect. But now it's like, okay, now I need to, and I've integrated, eating healthier stuff, but every now and again I fall off the wagon. I had some sweet tarts, and they got all kinds of crap in it, but I just couldn't help myself. So I'm feeling it. Like, hello, here's a testament. Like, I ate a whole bunch of sweet tarts, and now, like, I'm feeling it in my shoulders, in my joints. And I'm like, so yeah, we have to start taking care of ourselves. We have to start stepping in, doing the work, doing the work for ourselves, but really kind of doing that work in order to create what we want to see happen in society. And also being example for folks that are coming along the pack, and a lot of people, one thing I am going to say, because it's all about the truth, right? So let's speak the truth, and look, sometimes the truth hurts. But the younger folks, they're not as bad as, like, I shouldn't say they're not as bad. Like, there's a lot of them that actually are really, like, dialed into this. Like, they know something spiritually is happening. It's very strange. So I think we just need to have a little bit more faith in our youth. Like, some of them are breaking free too, and they're questioning things. And we're seeing it all the time, like kids standing up at these school board meetings. And so we got to be open, and we have to step into that, right? And one cool story, if I may. Yes, they are starseeds. Yep. So I met this kid. Oh, he's so adorable. And we were just talking, chatting, and I could tell, like, he was, like, with it. And he was like, people think I'm crazy. And I'm like, you're not crazy. Like, you're waking up. Like, you're not crazy. They're just not where you're at. And you have to find your crowd where they're at. And so I gave him, I don't know if I've shared this with you guys, but the CIA document of the Gateway Experience. And I said, make a copy of it. And so he made a copy, and then he made another copy for me, and he said, give this to somebody else. He's like, I kind of sifted through, and I was like, wow. He said, so make sure that you share that, and make sure that they know to make a copy and share it. And I was like, oh my God, that's a great idea. To just, because that has a plethora of information. And that right there, pretty much, like, anybody who's got the religion programming going on, they need to read that, because that right there talks about the whole spiritual. Like, there's this negative connotation with the spiritual, like you're doing voodoo or something. It's so not like that. Like, the cabal has all of this esoteric knowledge that's come from our creator that they have withheld from humanity. And, a lot of these esoteric teachings have kind of been released, and they're going around, and it's like, you'll get someone who'll say, oh, it's all a plan to just end us. And it's like, well, wait a minute. We were right where we needed to be for that to happen in 15. Sleepy sleep. And then it's like, thank God we had enough people that were awake, right, during that time that it shifted. Had it not, I can honestly say, I don't think we would be here, to be honest, had that been the case. And although we live in this matrix, there's this control that's out here that we can't just say, oh, I live in an illusion and there's nothing I can do about it. Bullshit. Yeah, there's a lot you can do about it. You can wake up, you can do the work, and you start to integrate information and all of this. And I remember when I was first waking, I was like, you're like up all night, like, whoa, and integrating. And I talked to a friend I haven't talked to in several years, a couple weeks ago. She said the same thing. She's like, my wife, she's gay. My wife was like, what are you doing? Why are you up all night long? Like, what? You got to stop this, but you get in that mode where it's like, okay, my brain is ready to be a sponge. And then you go through little lulls where it's just no more information overload. And this happened to me in September when I was in Big Bear. I met my what I would say my Morpheus. And some of the things that he was telling me, it was like I was in information overload, that my brain just stopped and I like fell asleep and then I woke up. And this was like all like the guy had left. I was going to interview him on the podcast. We didn't end up doing a podcast because I literally was like, what? Like, it was just the information. I was like, what? And like he said, this is probably going to mess you up for a couple months. And sure as shit, it did. Like, it was like, and I'm like trying to just like connect it in my, and to really conceptualize the information. And it took, I would say, a couple months to just, what? Like, blew my mind. Like the weaponization of grammar and speech and the way we speak and the way that the English language is, there's a lot of spells and all of these things. And it's like, what? Yeah, it's pretty nuts. So never a dull moment here in the Matrix. But it's like once you see it, you play along with the game and you realize it's just a game, right? And I don't want to say it's just a game, but it's just this illusion, and you just have to be the observer, because it's like once you step out of that observer role and you attach yourself, whether it's negative or positive, like you could go either way throughout here. Just as long as you can stay in the observer role, like, what's going on here? It's a good thing. So you guys got any questions for me? Who else is on here? There's 4 people on. There's Lisa. There's Mary Beth. Who else is on? I thought I saw somebody earlier. No. You could do a whole thing and show on the language. I know, right? I think I want to bring somebody in to like articulate that, because I still don't even really know how to, I mean, I can kind of talk it out, but to like really articulate it in a way where it could be understood, I think it would be best for me to bring somebody in. But, you know, I haven't really heard from him. I've reached out a couple times, but I do have somebody else that I'm kind of working on with that. So, that might be somebody I might be bringing on here when I get to that point. But yeah, it's something, right? Like the whole thing with our social security number and that our social security number is tied to a tax-free like bank account. It's like, what? And like, I saw a video yesterday. I can't even articulate yet. So I gotta watch it again to really kind of just take it in. But I'm like, what? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy how things are just like being revealed. It's such an amazing time, because it's like you start to like pull these layers of like just deception and lies. You're like, what? Like crazy stuff. And I just think it's a cool thing that we're seeing, like in the political realm, we're starting to see the corruption, but we're starting to see it from both sides, not just the Democrat, but we're also seeing it from the other side. So both birds of the same, are both wings of the same bird, right? We're starting to see how people played along and how corrupted the system really is. So it's like, whoa, the rug has just been, and it's kind of wild, man. I'm like, whoa, that's like a whole podcast separate from this. I mean, all that stuff. I'm just like, wow. I don't know. That's something I could probably integrate into this, because I do like to dive into that and kind of give a good observation. So, I mean, that might be something that would be cool to do, maybe on a regular basis, like just a podcast connected to this and how this is going on and that. I think we're seeing a lot of people kind of gravitating towards that letter because they're like, whoa, they're starting to see. I know there's a guy that's like always making videos on Instagram. And he's talking about that, like he sees an uptick of people coming to that and really kind of questioning things and seeing things. But then you have people that don't see it and they're like, that's not happening. So it's like, you know, I don't argue with people. I'm like, okay, whatever. And, you know, some people just have the need to be right. And, you know, maybe they are right and maybe I am wrong. I'm open to that. But, I will say that it came to my awareness that good night. Thank you, Mary Beth. Yeah, we are the chattel. Yeah. Bank of the river current is currency. Yes. You could do a whole show on language. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a cool thing. Lots going on in this matrix. Lots to learn. What do you want? Are you hungry? You want to say bye? Come up here. I'll pick you up. All right. Okay, peeps. We are going to get off. We're going to dial this down. Thank you so much for tuning in. And next week, we're going to dive into the ego. And then I have some interviews that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to California. I'm going to be doing some interviews there. And then I have to go to Chicago. I can't really talk about that right now because there's calls that need to be made. So, but I'm probably going to be going to Chicago. So I'm hoping maybe I can get some in there. I don't know. We'll see. Say bye, Lou.
Bye, Lou. Say bye, Archie. Who's that right there? Say there. Who is he? Say hi. Say hi, Archie. Say hi. You little stink.
Okay. I got to take him out. He's got to go. I got to feed him. So, anywho. The Wizard of Oz told us, yes. Yeah. The yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. The rabbit hole. All this. I could do like a podcast series on predictive programming. I would love that. Predictive programming in music, predictive programming in Hollywood. Oh my God, there's so much. So you never know what can happen here while we're harnessing the shift. So, all right, guys, I'm going to dial it out. Thank you so much for dialing in. And until next time, harness the shift. Take care.